Hi everyone, welcome to my new book review. This time I'm going to talk about this book called Masker Ziel by Dilan Yurdakul. Dilan Yurdakul is an actress. She played in a very famous Dutch soap called Goede Tijden, Slechte Tijden. And she is also a theater maker, and now she wrote this book. She's a third generation immigrant, meaning that it's her grandparents who moved to the Netherlands. And this has had a significant influence on her growing up. And that is what she beautifully writes in this book. Well, this is a topic that interests me a lot because I'm also a bicultural person. So, it's interesting to read experiences of other people who were raised between two cultures. And for that reason, I really enjoyed this book. Some parts I could relate to, others not. But I will talk about this later on. In her book, she starts with a prologue. So she writes, I have been raised as a sheep. I have been raised to walk as a sheep, eat as a sheep, think as a sheep, and to embrace centuries-old routines as a sheep. This thought is the thread throughout the story in which she describes herself, starting from her childhood until becoming an adult, growing up in the Netherlands. I bought this book after reading an interview with Dilan Yurdakul in the Volkskrant, in which she mentioned the 7 checkmarks of an immigrant. In that article, she made a statement that I found very interesting. What she said was that for the media, people of color or people with different roots only become significant once they meet these 7 check marks. For example, if as a person of color you break up with your family, you don't fit in your religion or culture, that is when the media finds you interesting enough to offer you a stage. Stories like those of Lale Gül or Ayaan Hirsi Ali got a lot of attention because it provides a sensation that the media is seeking for. I do have a lot of respect for everybody who shares their story, so this is not personally about these individuals, but there are also a lot of beautiful stories about being raised with two cultures, but those stories don't provide a sensation that the media is seeking for. Masker Ziel follows the life of Dilan Yurdakul, who navigates the complexities of being a bicultural individual. Yurdakul was born in Amsterdam in a Turkish family. Both her parents grew up in the Netherlands. It was her grandparents who moved from Turkey to the Netherlands. So she is a third generation immigrant. And throughout this book, we will read the complexities that Dilan faces in finding her own identity. And what I really enjoyed about this book is how well she managed to share a personal story, but at the same time shed some light on broader societal issues. For example, the fact that there are so many people who left a long time ago their home country, but how that also means that with that they also left a significant part of themselves, which they can later reflect on their children. There are different characters in this book that we follow. First of all, it's Dilan herself, of course. Then we have her parents. So her dad, who also worked in a media company, has alcohol issues. So we read how he seeks refuge in alcohol and how he is not really taking responsibility at home. Then we have her mother, who's not really appreciating the absence of the father, but who doesn't really know how to go about it. And we see how she is continuously struggling with this challenge. She's smoking a lot of cigarettes. She's putting a lot of pressure on her children. And finally, there is the younger sister of Dilan. So it's a family of 4. And there are also the grandparents of Dilan from both sides, her mom and her dad's side. This book touches upon several themes, including identity, culture, and the different masks that people put on to fit in society. The book challenges the reader to reflect on their own identity and to ask ourselves if we ourselves sometimes wear different masks to fit the expectations of different stages where we play a role in our lives. So we have our education at school, our job, our family, and if you think about it, you may recognize that sometimes you do put on a certain mask to just make life easier for yourself. So this was something that I found that Dilan Yurdakul managed really well. 2 points that I wanted to add, because in general I really like this book and I would definitely recommend reading it if you are interested in these kind of topics. But the 2 points that I was missing were, first of all, the reason why I chose this book was because I was curious to learn more about the 7 check marks of being an immigrant. And I was hoping that she would explain this concept a little bit more in her book, because after reading the interview, I looked it up, but I couldn't really find an explanation of what it exactly entails. So that was maybe an expectation that I had and that, I didn't find in the book. And the second point was just a general thought or reflection, because I was thinking the issues that Dylan describes, how specific are these for people with a bicultural background? Of course, there is an extra layer in our identity that makes finding our identity more complex. But I do think that even if you don't have a bicultural background, I think you can still recognize yourself. So if you read a book, let me know what you think. I'm really curious, and I think it's a very interesting topic. So see you next time.